Hello everyone, this is video number 4. So if you haven't watched video 1 where I try out the code and I connect to the server, and video 2 where I change the port, and video 3 where I change the IP to inadd or any and change the port, then you should go and watch those first. This is the final one, but the others are foundational. If you understand the others, you'll understand this one. So this is what we're going to do, change the IP to my VM IP. So let's have a look at the instructions for that. So it says copy the code to server 4, change the port, choose a port in the range of 8000-8999. That has to do with the VPN. Change the IP address to the IP address of your VM. So I've already done that. Let's have a look at the code where I've done it. So here's the code where I've done it. Oops, wrong one. Let's have a look at what's going on here. Whoops, sorry. So let's have a look at the code where I've done this. So I'm using egrep, which is extended grep, because the OR with the round braces is an extended grep, and I wanted to begin with IP or begin with port. So let's see what we've got here. So as you can see, in server 2 it's 127.0.0.1.8501. In server 3 it's inadd or any 8502. In server 4 it's my IP address, so the IP address of this computer. You should use your own. So IP adder 10.172.11.136, and then the beginning, the first one that I got was 127.0.0.1 and 8.1.1.1. So that looks okay. So now I have the code to do it. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to run the server code using my IP address. Can we run it? Well, yes, I think it will run because it will be unique, but let's give it a shot. So this is server 4. I forgot to put it in the background. Control Z, and then BG, and then jobs, and then netstab. So here, as we can see, it's bound to my IP address and the port 8503, which is how I set it up. So what are we supposed to do next? So yes, we can run the server code using my IP address because it's essentially it's valid. It's a valid IP address that's not used anywhere else. Sorry, it's a valid IP address and the port isn't used anywhere else. So now it says, can I run all 4? So let's give that a shot. And my hypothesis is yes, because as we saw in that egrep, where's my egrep? In that egrep, this combination is all unique. They're all using TCP, but then these combinations are all unique. So I think they're all going to work. So right now I'm running server 4, so let's run server 3 in the background, server 2 in the background, and the original code, whoops, sorry, in the background, server. So it looks like they're all running. They're all running. Oops, wrong one. I want my netstat. So here we go. So these are all of my servers. So this is server, this is server 4, server 3, server 2, and server 1, without a 1. So they're all running, so that's good. So we can run them all. So I can run to them all at the same time in the background, and it does work. It works because they have a unique socket addresses, so the servers can bind. So the next one is, can you talk to each of them using netcat and the loopback? So let's give that a go. So netcat, let's start with 8.1.1.1. We know that's going to work. Oops, let's pull this up a bit. So that worked, but we should have consumed my server, so the first server is gone. So yes, I can, the first one, no problem. Let's try 8502. 8501, sorry, 8501. So that works. So the only two that I have left are server 3 and server 4. And I know that server 3 worked, so let's give that a shot. Sorry, 2. I can't spell hello for some reason. So that one worked. So the only thing left is the one that's bound to my IP address, and I don't think it's going to work because it's not listening for that connection. So let's give it a shot. cat 8503. Connection refused. So it's not bound to 127001, so the connection is refused. And inadd or any is bound to anything. So no, we can't talk to any of them using the loopback. So, and the reason for that is because this particular one isn't listening on the loopback. If I use 000, it listens to loopback and my IP address and any others that happen to be on here, but this one is only listening to my IP address. So let's look at question 4. So can you talk to the server from your desktop using the IP address of your VMs? Try the access with each port. Why or why not? So, well, I have to run the others before I can, so I have to make sure they're running. So we're missing server.py. So that's 8111 on the loopback, and I forgot to put it in the background. And we're missing server 2. I did it again. We're missing, what about server 3? Let's make sure they're all running. So they're all running. So server 234. And let's see what netstat, what the kernel thinks is going on. So there the kernel thinks, yep, they're all running. So now I want to check them from my desktop. And we know from our previous experience that 127001, so the first one timed out, sorry, didn't time out, refused. So this port, we opened this port, but it was refused because it wasn't asking from this host. Same with the second one, refused. The third one worked fine. What about the last one? Well, before we try this, we have to go back to the firewall. So let's see, the firewall is currently not allowing port 8503. So we're going to, let's see, well, just to review it a little bit, we're going to have a look and see what happens when I try to connect. And it's not allowed through the firewall. So let's clear this. So we want a netcat. We'll try 8502. So that ended. And I can see from here, if I tail the socket log, those are the connections that I got. So the first one was hello, bye, and here we go. And then quit was requested, and that was from this PID. So that was the PID for this process, 8502. So let's try 8501 again. Failed. So 8501, even though it's open in the firewall, there's nothing listening. So it failed. And what about 8111? Oops, sorry about that. I'm not recording a macro. 8111. That should also fail. So those ports are open, but because they're listening on the loopback, there's no connection possible. But the last one, let's try that. 85503. So we don't have 8503 in the firewall, so what I think will happen is that one's going to time out. Let's do the firewall again. So there's my firewall status. So I'm going to wait for that to time out, and I'm going to tail what's going on in the sockets log. Nothing much is happening. We're good to go. And here we say failed, connection timed out. So it timed out because it wasn't able to even access that port. Connection refused because it accessed the port, but nobody was listening. So sudo ufw allow 850, what is it? 8503 TCP. So let's see what we've got. Status 8503 TCP. So we're going to try this again. I only need to do this once. Now that it's done, I can keep connecting. Well, provided my process is up. So see, that ended. So let's see what's going on here. Whoops, sorry, I lost my cursor. Let's have a look at what happened in the sockets log. So here we had hello, and this is my connection. Notice that I logged my connection and my ephemeral port, and it was received from MOBA extern. And then I got a quit, so it's done. I'm going to run it again so I can show you the socket again. I could run server 3 or server 4, but since we're working on server 4, I'm going to put that in the background. So now that's running. Oops, it's already in use. So what's going on? It might be in a time wait state. So yes, see here, my 8503 is still in a time wait state. So we have to wait for that to expire before we can run another port. Sorry, we can run another connection on that IP address and port. So let's give it a couple of minutes, or hopefully not that long. Okay, it's gone. So the wait state is finished, so now I should be able to run it again. So it was even telling us address already in use, but we knew that it should have ended. We knew server 4 ended. So then what you do is you check the stacks. So the stack had not timed out yet. So I want to run server 4, py, put that in the background. So now that ran, and if I do the net stat again, I see there I have, oops, you can't see everything, but I have the PID that I just started. And where is my server 8503? Here we go. That's the server that I'm running. So I should be able to connect to it again. Oops, wrong IP address. Oh, sorry, wrong port. 8503. That should say Windows. I don't mind the Z, but I don't like. There we go. Quit. And then I quit. So again, this probably will go into a wait state. We just didn't happen to see it before. It can go into a wait state from anywhere. So let's look at it. So here we go. There's my time wait. So it's waiting for it to end. And as soon as that ends, I can run it again. But notice my server process is done. So this is just what was going on in the kernel. So let's see what the questions are for this. Can you talk to the server from your desktop using the IP address of your VM? So yes, I can. For the first two, I can't. So the first two are bound to the loopback. So I can't talk to them. But both with my IP, with my VM IP, and with inadd or any, I can talk to them from the desktop. And then, so the same thing would be true of ask a student to talk to their server from their to server 4 from their VM. Can you connect using the IP address of your VM? So it's the same idea as for talking to the server from my desktop. It's just that it happens to be on the same VLAN. So I added a bonus question here. What would happen if you use the same port as server 3 and your VM's IP address? Because technically server 3 is binding to both my IP address and the loopback. So let's test it and see what will happen. It's a bonus. You don't have to do it, but what's running? Let's see what my jobs are running. We can also use PS, but I like jobs. So I have server running and server 2 running, but I really want server 3. Put it in the background. So that one is listening to port, where's my egrep? So server 3 is listening to port 8502 on the loopback. So let's try taking a copy of server 4, sorry, CP. And changing it to listen on the same port. So server 3 is 8502. Let's have a look at it. Oops, wrong one. Server 5 I want. So instead of 3, I want 2. There's my egrep. So what I'm going to do here is server 3 is any IP address and port 8502, and server 5 is the IP address of the box and 8502. So what I think will happen is that I won't allow it to run because it's not unique. So because this one is saying anything, which includes 10, 172, 11, 136, and the loopback. But let's give it a test. And that's what's happened. So it can't create a unique socket address, so I can't use, if I use inadd or any, I can't use an individual IP address also. But if I'm not using inadd or any, I can use an individual IP address with the same port. So that's the bonus question. So there we go. So this is the final video, and we have answered all of the questions for each of these sections 2 to 5. Hopefully that clears up any confusion and clarifies things. Thank you. Bye.